Hi. This purpose of this video, if I stop shaking the camera, is to essentially temporarily facilitate kind of the thought process that I'm going through right now with respect to ideology. And when I say ideology, I mean it in the essence not of just one's view of the world, but more or less more in the religious context, if it makes any sense. Basically, the whole value and mixing of cultures, ideas, and beliefs, maybe less so without a deity. Which actually, in the actual definition of religion actually doesn't require a higher power. It just is a system of beliefs. So you could actually argue most things we call ideological are actually more religious than ideological, more dogmatic, because ideology simply refers to kind of one's perspective on humanity and just general worldview. But if you go into something like Marxism or communism, or even capitalism for that matter, they have cultural aspects to them as well. There's things that you can inherently attribute that deal with imagery and general theory, stories, books. Feminism is also an excellent example of this. Primarily left-leaning ideologies are highly tribalistic in nature simply based off of the fact that they tend to be very well structured. There's a lot of things you can attribute particularly to any left-leaning ideology, particularly things like feminism, communism, Marxism, which are fairly interrelated, actually, if you really get into things, but once again, that's irrelevant to the point. The point is, in analyzing ideology, particularly what I'll now refer to as dogmatic ideology, so the kind of religious stuff was starting to get into before when I was talking about feminism, communism, Marxism, one really needs to look at, and what I've begun to look at, is the dogmatic nature of the ideology and how it attempts to get followers. Because let's be clear, for anyone whom of which has had a basic standard education, without the indoctrination bit, half the things that Marxism, feminism, and communism say sound good on the surface, but the second you see it in reality, it's fucking completely different. This goes particularly with the Marxist version of equality. Everyone's equal, all these other great things, except for our oppressors, whom of which get screwed over. So then, are you really pro-equality? And the answer is no. And this is seen with almost every single communist movement. Oh, we want equality, that's all we want. We just want everyone to be equal. Except for they go on purges and start killing the supposed bourgeoisie even after they've been cast out. Mao does this as well when he kills basically everyone with glasses on, which would mean entirely I would be fucked. So, yeah. If I lived under his regime, which I'm fortunately not in any position to be anywhere close to that, both time-wise and location-wise, geographically speaking. But my point still remains, which is the fact that dogmatic ideology in the context we're using it in, has something very interesting to do with language, particularly its linguistic manipulation, and this is seen very well in 1984 by George Orwell in his lovely book, in which he explores the kind of concepts of language, particularly its steadfast interaction with ideology and the idea of formation of culture. And this is seen with everything. You can actually attribute cultures and idea processes with words and with linguistics. And when one is actually permitted to involve this all into an ideology, you were able to manipulate the base level of rationalization. For example, if I change the basic understanding of a word and then make you think with it, I can change the way you think and the way you rationalize. For example, we all have the predisposition to believe equality is good. If I change the definition of equality, however, from the baseline meaning of everyone is equal, or more or less the fact that everyone deserves to be treated generally equally, for example, rule of law, which is inherent to classical liberalism, if I change the definition of equality to essentially also include affirmative action, what's often also termed in some circles as positive discrimination, and start changing definitions in order for certain realities to no longer exist or no longer be applicable, I can actually change your thought rationalization. Particularly if I still keep your emotional aspects towards that word. For example, we all know that discrimination is bad. But if I change the definition of discrimination to particularly exclude certain groups of people and particularly automatically include other groups of people, I can entirely manipulate your whole thought process immediately. It's very subliminal, it's very hard to judge, because on our surface value we can see it happening. But if it slowly comes about, if we change these terms, if we tell you these things are right, we get you on the right feeling, track, shall we say. We make you feel, oh, we're doing the right thing. And then we start changing words. Then you can immediately start rationalizing this. For example, if I change the word racism, power plus privilege, instead of its original context, which is simply just discrimination based on race, if I were to change that, even though it already has technically been changed, to its academic qualifying term, which is technically power plus privilege as used in sociology studies, though actually has no actual connotation in the English language, except for the fact that people use it all the freaking time, even though it's not right. If I do that, suddenly, oh, black people can't be racist. Well, thus I can justify doing a whole shit ton of things to you that are completely horrendous. Why? Because you're white, and I can't be racist because, well, in this case, I'm black. Or in this case, I'm probably more red than anything. And in doing that, I can change the rationalization process to accept things that would have once been considered absurd. For example, discriminating against someone based on race. Completely absurd, wrong, unethical. But now that I've changed the definition, it's now okay to discriminate against certain people. And I still keep the connotations of discrimination being a bad thing, so it's still horrible to do whatever to whatever group I still apply the term racism to, but it no longer applies to certain groups of people I deem to be privileged, which is inherent to Marxism. Particularly cultural Marxism, which is this idea that essentially we should value the minority over the majority at the expense of the majority. Not just everyone's equal, but actually the minority should be superior to the majority, because the majority is to blame. They're the oppressors. It's morally right for them to be subjugated by the proletariat class, shall we say. And this is where you start getting to the real mindfuck that is cultural Marxism. And immediately in any democracy, it's complete irrationality and completely insane level of self-destructive nature that it possesses. Because obviously in democracy, you can't subjugate the majority rule of people and still expect to maintain power, particularly if you're the minority. It's retarded. You can't do it in a democracy, at least for a sustained period of time, to the point where you become abusive. And this is exactly what we're seeing with cultural Marxism. And its influence on Western ideologies and just in general the Western hemisphere, which is the idea that, well, which is reality, that suddenly these groups are calling for more benefits than what is actually out to them. They're calling for more than equality. They're calling for superiority. We deserve more of this. We deserve more of that. You deserve not just do we deserve this, but you also deserve to suffer because we say so. And this is starting to massively backfire for obvious reasons, because people don't naturally want to do that. No one wants to suffer, particularly for something they actually haven't done. I'm not responsible for the subjugation of black people in America. First and foremost, I don't even live in the United States right now. Yes, I am an American citizen, but my family traces back just 3 generations ago to Eastern Europe. We were subjugated by communists, for Christ's sakes. And you're going to tell me that I'm responsible for black people in the United States in the 18th century being sold into slavery? Really? What the flying fuck? If anything, I've got an entitlement to victimhood, historically speaking. But of course, that doesn't matter because I'm white. It's this reality of robbing people of individualism and inserting a collective kind of shield over anything you want in order to craft a worldview that is far different than actual reality. And this is why you'll often notice Marxism comes in complete conflict with actual reality, actual human nature. People are willing to act collectively. They're willing to subjugate themselves to a degree to authority, and this is seen under the development of social contract theory. But people are not willing to completely give up everything. They're really not, particularly for long durations of time. When the cost-benefit analysis that is natural to almost all human thought processes that are cognitive in nature, that are conscious in nature, once you override that, once the cost becomes more than the benefit, people will rebel. And that's exactly what is starting to happen now, and this is why you're seeing the right begin to rise, particularly the far right. It is because these people have suddenly had their justification for existence again. The pendulum is now shifting the other way, and these people actually now finally have justification. And I think what the left is now really going to start suffering with is the fact that it can no longer sustain itself. What the hell does the left have to argue about now? Really, what? What is a good social policy is the reason why I should elect you? Should I elect you for more social services, which there are already tons of, and tax rate that is retardedly high? Or should I be voting you in because of gender discrimination, which is already illegal on all fronts. Like, what the hell does the left have left to actually do it? And the answer is nothing right now, because it's had power for so long. Even if it hasn't been elected into office 24/7, it's still had the dominating social power that has maintained it for a very long time now. And I think it's starting to run out of things to actually do that are actually sane. In Mein Kampf, this is actually highlighted very well in the fact that the left was gaining massive amounts of traction. The Socialist Democratic Party was gaining large amounts of traction in Austria because, as Hitler puts it, the bourgeoisie were not willing to concede a single millimeter to the Social Democrats, even when they were talking about things that were actually fairly practical, like basic safety measures and basic support systems so that you didn't die when you lost your job, which was fairly common at the time, at least more so than it is now. But the bourgeoisie wouldn't give an inch. They wouldn't give a single inch, and that led to complete radicalization. Because these people who couldn't get an inch, they just went all the freaking way. And this is probably why you're seeing right now the right, particularly the far right, starting to rise up so effectively. Because even though, let's be honest, you don't really need a white ethno-state to combat immigration, you simply just vet people better. That's really all you need. It's not that extreme. But obviously there's a huge increase now in popularity for a white ethno-state, which I find completely unethical and irrational and, quite frankly, insane, and also wrong on many levels, conflicting with my own personal ethics. But the reality is, the reason why this is happening is because liberals weren't willing to give an inch. Not an inch, and I mean modern liberals. I don't mean classical liberals like someone like Sargon of Akkad. I'm talking like crazy lunatic left people. Modern liberalism in many senses, even arguably farther than that. Really into the land of cultural Marxism, where if you are remotely against this or you have any questions about it whatsoever, you are a racist or a xenophobe, which is retarded in nature. Like, really, what, we're supposed to have open borders? Okay, so all 7.3 billion people on Earth or whatever, you can all move into the United States and it'll all be great, right? Because you all maintain the same exact wealth levels and nothing will possibly happen to the U.S. economy whatsoever. No, shit will go down the drain real fucking quick. And for reasons that are evident to anyone. You don't even need to have grade 6 math in order to understand exactly how fucked up that situation would actually be. Simply just based on economics, not even based on the social collision course you would be setting, which would just be an absolute clusterfuck. You'd have like 18 different ideologies that are completely diametrically opposed to each other, just like, bam, into each other, and that'd be a fucking mess. But yeah, really, at the end of the day, the thing is that these ideologies, these dogmatic ideologies, are highly manipulated because they change the basis of human thought. They change the language of which we think in, really, and that's how they change the basis of human thought. And by doing so, they can change the rationalization process of a human being, and that can be inherently, well, the term that I generally hate, but is true, problematic. And in doing so, you can create some really messed up situations. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it from me for now. This has been a very interesting test, which has spent most of my time staring at myself on a screen. But yeah, try to look at the camera more next time. Yeah, so that's that. This is where I'm currently standing with my thought process, and yeah.